the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, 3.0 is roll call, school board members, everybody's present. So we're gonna move directly into 4.0, and before we go to communications and reports, why don't we kind of suspend it? Let's jump directly into superintendent's report, and we'll do green wave recognition. We have quite a few people here, so let's knock that out. And
Okay.
if you folks that are here want to stay and enjoy the meeting, certainly welcome to, but
Good places to go to you.
let's recognize them first and get them on their way if they want.
That's a good idea. I'll just keep my superintendent report very short. Just happy holidays to everybody, and thanks for everybody for all you do. I'm very thankful. Just as November winds down, we're going to be very busy trying to get in our committee meetings in and negotiations. And so if you want to hang out just a little bit after the meeting, board members, and I can try to get you to commit to some of these dates here so we can get those committee meetings done, that'd be great. We continue to evaluate all areas of the school district. We're looking at obviously protocol and safety procedures and making sure that things are in place. And so I want people to know that that's happening on a daily basis. Working with special ed and director of ASAC to make sure that things are being followed there, and we're supporting all students to the best of our ability. We are meeting with law enforcement and the city to get updates on the SRO, and so I'll keep you abreast on all of those things. I did attend the grand opening at the Family Resource Center recently, and they had about 200 people show up, and so that was really special, and I'm really glad that the school was able to support them and get that space. And then lastly, I just wanted to let the board know and the community know that I attended the Turkey Bingo on the 16th at New Heights, and I was very impressed and all the people in the turnout. So good stuff, East Grand Forks, and I just wanted to report on that. And now the fun part. Let's go ahead and recognize some folks, some special folks in our community and school. I'd like to start with soccer. As you know, we had a very special soccer season this year. We had the girls were state participants, I believe, for the first time in 13 years. Does that sound right? And so a very great accomplishment. And so I'm going to recognize 3 people. And if when I call your name, if you want to come up, or we can take a picture over here in the corner, that'd be great. I got a certificate for you. Number 1, I'd like to recognize head coach Bina for being coach of the girls soccer team state qualifiers. So if you're going to come up, please. I also like to recognize Tom Pichet for being selected as a state 8A girls soccer assistant coach of the year. Finally, Ella Torkelson for being selected as a Class A girls soccer all-state selection. You want to take a picture? And 1, 2, 3. One more time. All right. All right. Next, I'd like to recognize girls volleyball. This year we had Michelle Johnson was recognized, and she was recognized for the Jeff Loves Award for Outstanding Assistant Coach for girls volleyball. Congratulations, Michelle. Okay, next we will do swimming. Gabby Tack was recognized for being a participant in the North Dakota State Swimming and Diving Tournaments. So congratulations, Gabby. Picture. All right. All right, then finally, I have some academic awards for our students here at East Grand Forks. And so I'm going to call off 4 students' names, and if you're here, please come up to the front and we'll get a picture. First, I'll start with a AAA award. AAA award goes to the 1 male senior and the 1 female senior who excel in academics, academics, athletics, and arts. And our male winner this year is Braden Carlson, and our female recipient was Ella Thorvaldsen. And then also the Excel Award. The Excel Award goes to the 1 male junior and 1 female junior who excel in community, leadership, and academics. And this year's recipients are Cooper Hills and Carly Walsh.
Congrats, everybody. Let's move directly into go back into 4.0. 4.1 is the finance update. I think what I want to do first, Carl and Amanda, I know you guys have your update. You want to go first, or do you want me to go with Brian first? Brian, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, Brian, we'll end up voting, accepting the audit during board business, but if you just want to do kind of a brief overview of the audit, and that way board members can ask any questions. We'll try to knock them out now so you don't have to stay for the whole board meeting. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Am I able to share the presentation through my screen, or is someone else able to advance that? It just looks like I've been disabled to be able to share my screen. There we go. Okay. Everyone seeing that okay? All right, appreciate it. I will take you through the highlights of the audit results for fiscal year 23. Just about a dozen slides or so, and that includes both the cover page here and a couple at the end that are asking for questions. So this should be fairly quick. I'll make sure to pause periodically for any questions that you may have. But again, a very high level overview of the audit results for fiscal year 23. Brian Stavanger is my name, a partner with Eide Bailly. Really the ultimate person in charge of ensuring that the audit goes according to plan. So here we go, the audit overview. Just really a reminder, this hasn't changed from previous years, but a reminder that we're following a few different standards and rules to completing the annual audit. Any audit that is performed, be it a school district or a for-profit entity, we're always following generally accepted auditing standards. Because you are a school district, because you receive federal funds, we also have to follow government auditing standards, which is really more of a compliance type approach to auditing. We also are following the Minnesota Legal Compliance Audit Guide. So any audit that's performed for a local government in the state of Minnesota, MDE, the state auditor's office, issues this compliance audit guide just to look at different compliance things. And then when we're doing an audit, we are obtaining reasonable but not absolute assurance that those financial statements are free of material misstatements. So we're not looking at things 100%, but we're doing it on a sampling basis based on risk assessment to make sure that we can get comfortable to provide you that opinion. Again, really no changes from previous years and the guidance that we follow. Here's an overall timeline for the audit. We begin thinking about it in about the summer, right near year end of June 30th. We plan in June and July, really step it up in August. And then the last week of August is when we dedicated the majority of our work to the audit, and then work through the wrap up and the reporting, and ultimately provide that to you here in November. Very similar timeline from previous years as well. So here's really ultimately what you want, and what you're hearing is, what is our opinion? What is the audit opinion? It's a clean, right here, a clean, unmodified opinion, which is really meaning that you are following the correct accounting rules, no misstatements, everything's fairly presented. So in the full audit document, making sure that everything's correct and all disclosures are included. So that is based on our work that we performed. We can give you that clean, unmodified opinion. So I'll pause there briefly, see if there's any questions so far on the audit and the results. Hearing none, I'll keep going. Any entity that receives and expends greater than this threshold, $750,000 in federal awards in any one fiscal year, triggers a federal audit. Really an audit specific to the federal awards that are expended, very compliance heavy, as well as taking a look at internal controls. A school district of your size on an annual basis does meet this threshold regularly. In fiscal year 23, approximately $2.2 million in federal awards that were expended and subject to this federal audit. Also a clean, unmodified opinion in relation to those federal awards. We looked at the ESSER dollars in fiscal year 23, clean, unmodified opinion. So I'll pause there, see if there's any questions on the federal funds audit, which is all incorporated into the full audit report that is issued. Okay, hearing silence, get to the findings. When it comes to the audit, there are really three different areas that we potentially could have findings. Overall on the financial statements, overall on the federal audit, as well as what I had mentioned a few slides ago, the Minnesota legal compliance. In all three instances, no findings to report for fiscal year 23. There was a new accounting standard that was implemented and reported upon in fiscal year 23. Not a real significant impact, but definitely want to point it out. It's a lot of work to put it together, and then a little bit of work to audit it. Ultimately, what this is any subscription-based IT arrangements are now reported as long-term assets as well as long-term liabilities. About 43,000 was the total impact. Again, not super significant, but definitely a change in how things are reported going forward. So that was accounted for appropriately, audited and reported. So just something new in fiscal year 23. Any questions on anything so far, including that new accounting standard? Okay, get into a few different numbers. So the next few slides are actually pulled from your audited financial statements. Just wanted to highlight a few things from a numbers standpoint. This is looking at the general fund budget to actual. A lot of numbers here, a lot of rows, a lot of columns. So I'll try to point out really what you can focus on. In the general fund, the main operating fund of the district, this top section here is looking at revenue. So what revenues did the district take in fiscal year 23? The first two columns being budget columns. So way back probably in the spring of 2022, setting that original budget for fiscal year 23. And then any modifications and final modifications represented here in this final budget column. The actual results here in this third column, and then the far right column is just looking at the variance between the final budget and the actual results. Really taking a look at how did you do compared to how you expected to do. So on the revenue side, actual revenues, about 24.3 million in actual revenues. That was a little bit more than budget by about $161,000. So really within under 1% of what you expected to be from a revenue standpoint. You go through all the different categories, not a lot of significant variations. So from a revenue standpoint, for the most part, nailed it. Took in a little bit more than what you expected, but nothing significant. This next larger section, the expenditures. So as you took in those revenues, where did you spend them? What did you spend them on? Again, budget, two budget columns, the actual column. I'm going to go down here to the total expenditures. Expended a little bit more than anticipated, but still within about 3% of budget. So on a nearly $25 million budget, came in within $866,000. As you look at all these different categories and variances, very similar to the revenues. Nothing really jumps out at you. It's just within each category expended a little bit more than anticipated. Really sites and buildings would be the big thing. Also special education instruction, a little bit more than anticipated, but overall, very reasonable within budget. Continue on down, and I'm going to really get to this third line up from the bottom. After you take into account other miscellaneous items, and really you expected to have a deficit spend in the general fund right here of about $707,000. Came in more than that, mainly on the expenditure side and in driving that excess deficit. So at the end of the day, in the general fund, really at the end of the year, ended up with about 4.4 or just under 4.5 million in fund balance overall. I'm going to get into that on the next slide. Definitely want to pause here. A lot of numbers, as I mentioned. Any questions, added comments to the general fund budget to actual? Okay, hearing
Not
none.
at this time, Brian.
Oh, okay. Again, another one with a lot of numbers, a lot of information on here. This is really taking a look at all the different fund balances. Fund balances are really your reserves. And this is taking into account what did we have for reserves at the beginning of the year? And then broken down into a lot of different categories. Your general fund, food service, community service, building construction, and debt service. And really, I'm not going to get into a lot of discussion here. Really just want to point out what this is. You can go into the full audit and review in much more detail if you want. But it takes you from the beginning of the year within all these different funds and categories, adding in your revenues, subtracting out your expenses, if there's any other miscellaneous changes, and then gets you to the end of the year. Really what I want to point out is the general fund unassigned right here. That's what we're going to analyze on the next page. We're going to take that, convert it to a percentage of your total budget, and just kind of see where you are historically in the last 5 years. But I'll pause here to see if there's any questions, added comments on this page, fund balances. A lot of good information in that full audit. Just trying to pull out some high level information for you. Okay, here's probably my favorite slide in the presentation. It's taking a look at that general fund, unrestricted fund balance, comparing it to really where you want to be as well as historically where you've been. So first of all, this is converting it to percentages. So what are your reserves as a percentage of your annual operating expenditures or annual budget? You can see at the end of 2023, about 15%. Well, what do these lines represent? This is really your internal policy. You intend to have at a minimum 8%, at a maximum 25%, really with a goal of being right around 15%. So you can see in these last 5 years, you've been right within that range, slightly above kind of that targeted 15%. And at the end of 2023, right at that 15% level. So within expectations, ended up even with that deficit spend still within that range and right at that target of 15%. Okay, final opportunity for questions for me on anything that I spoke about in this presentation or anything else maybe that you have questions on. I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Board members, otherwise we'll take action during the actual board business on the agenda, but for the sake of time, get Brian out of here. If you got any questions for Brian, other board members. All right, well, appreciate it, Brian, and thanks to you and your staff. Got to work with them once again. So I know it's a quick PowerPoint, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Have a great rest of your evening. Appreciate it.
You as well.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you. All right, let's see, let's go right back in. I don't have any, department head reports, at least on my stuff. So let's move directly into 4.3 and, Superintendent Hackbarth, you want to just chat a little bit about committees?
Sure, just a real quick update. The pre-K committee has met a couple times. So we'll keep the board, updated on our progress there. I think the next thing we do is do a buildings and grounds meeting, kind of give you an update of our walkthrough. Other things that I would like to schedule is, policy, transportation, and then the district advisory council meeting. And so if we could all just hang out afterwards, that'd be great. And then I don't know if we want to talk about doing a finance too. Mr. Board Chair, we can talk about that at some
We'll
point.
do finance as a board meeting. We can talk about that, but I think one thing, make sure all the board members hang out here, because I think, Nancy, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a couple that have to be done within in a time frame. I don't know if that's our advisory committee.
We should do one, yeah.
So we should probably try to knock that out before the end of the year.
And then real quickly, just negotiations. I want to thank everybody that worked on the bus driver negotiations. And so, that was very successful, I think. We met with the EGFEA again last week and as well as MSCA. And so moving forward on those two negotiations as well.
All right, appreciate it. Any questions? Okay, let's move directly into 5.0, the consent. Oh, I'm sorry, ladies. Jumping right over you. All right, let's go to, back to 4.2 or 4.1. And, I should have jumped on that before our committee reports. So, Carla and Amanda, if you guys want to give your finance updates, please.
All right, so we're gonna start with the general fund. And I just found like three things that I really kind of wanted to make note at. And so if we look at the federal line, you notice there's a decrease in what we've received last year, which we normally received last year at this time. But just so you know, the state implemented a new grant system this year called MEGS, and they finally just kind of started getting that rolling. So we were just able to draw down some of our title funds that we normally would have already gotten by now, which roughly accounted for about 94,000. So that'll be coming to us as well. And then ESSER, we just got a notice this morning that that money has been moved into MEGS now. So we are able, once that budget's approved, we can start drawing off of that. So those are kind of fun to start rolling with. And then I just gotta look at the local other column. That change is the interest is up over about 50,000 this year compared to last year. So we're on a good trend with our with the interest rates right now. And then we also had our donations were up this year for about this time was about 33,000, and that's mostly due to the work that Donovan's done with the PAC. And then lastly on this page, we're going to go look at the equipment line in the expenditures. And the budget was kind of for the change in that one to account for, I didn't write exactly the dollar amount, but the budget was built around the Chromebooks and the staff computers. So a good chunk of that budget, it's already been spent. So that's where that major kind of changes right there. We won't be doing much out of that for the remainder of the year. All right, so then we're gonna move to the second page with the by fund. So the main note that I wanted to make for this one is that the meal reimbursements were just received the other day for November for September and October. So those are not recorded in those for the month of October. So that's account for that major change. And then community education, there a variation there. We found it as kind of more the timing of when the accounts have been paid. So preschool and after wave. And then the last note on this page is the food service expenditure side. And just to note that the cost of food is on the rise. And but we're kind of offsetting that a little bit with that salaries are on their way down, or they're downtrending right now. So those are the three I had right there. Any questions so far?
So going back up to the revenues and stuff, and I guess the expenditures, where it has the student stuff, is it just the student activities? Are we just down? Like people aren't participating this year is why we don't have the revenues?
That's actually a fundraising account. So
Oh, okay.
that's like what they, the students themselves go out to,
Oh, okay.
to like their gold cards or whatever. So if they're doing a student funded activity,
Yeah.
that's where that goes.
Oh, okay.
So that's just based on what
Whatever they raise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
or what they got going on that time frame.
Oh.
All right, so then we're gonna finally go through the treasury report. Don't have too much to say there, other than our overall cash position is down about 1.7 million, which is kind of accounted for in those expenditures that we talked about earlier.
I have one more question.
Yep.
So you did talk about the food service, but it's not entered in yet.
Yep.
So do you know, are we breaking even or do we know if we're losing a lot of? Or not yet?
I couldn't quite tell you that
Yeah.
yet.
No, that's okay.
Wait, I'd like to do for in-depth analysis on that before.
Yeah, no, I get it.
commented that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just very curious.
Oh, I am too.
We are.
All I got.
Board members, questions on the finance report? All right, well, as you can see, look at these numbers, we're gonna end up having a finance committee meeting here at some point in time. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
Let's move to 5.0, the consent agenda. So I need to add two things to the consent agenda. First, I'll ask if anybody wants anything pulled off the consent agenda.
Josh needs to.
Yep,
be-
I got that. So here's what I'm gonna do. First thing I'm gonna do is I need to add 5.4 for a volunteer coach. There's a volunteer hockey coach, Nick Derrick. I need to add that. That wasn't put on the last one. And then I'm gonna add 5.5. We have to all be present to vote on the school board member to be the head, for Josh to remain as the head coach. So everybody wasn't present. I think Lynn was gone.
Yep.
So with that being said, I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda as uploaded into board book, but I'm gonna pull 5.4 and 5.5. Okay, questions? All right, so first thing we do is all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, less 5.4 and 5.5 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 5.4 is we just have another volunteer hockey coach, Nick Derrick, so I'll just entertain a motion to hire him as the volunteer hockey coach.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? Essentially, they're not paid for this position, but we as a district have to make sure that whether any sport or any activity that anybody's involved, I think it's the normal process. So questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving Nick Derrick as volunteer hockey coach signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 5.4. I'm gonna try to read how I need to verse this. So I'm going to make a motion for Josh to what's it called? It's under Minnesota State Statute 471.88 subsection 5, subdivision 5, that talks about a school board member and being employed as a school board member as well as a coach or within activities. But bottom line is I'm making a motion for Josh to continue as the head basketball coach while serving on the school board. Need a second there first. And then
I'll second.
Okay, so how we do this, it has to, Josh, you can abstain.
Yep.
If you want, doesn't matter because by abstaining, you're just in the majority anyway.
Yep.
So-
Abstain.
Okay, so with that being said, Josh abstains. Let's just do a roll call vote. Yes.
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 There we go. That passes, so it's under the bridge now. Let's move to 6.0 opportunities for citizens to speak on items not on the agenda. I had none. Superintendent Hackworth, did you have any?
And Mr. Chairman,
All right. 7.0 is to approve the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda is uploaded in board book signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.0, move district business. 8.1 is to approve the SLP therapy service agreement. So let's get a motion in a second and then superintendent can kind of fill us in on that.
I'll move to approve the SLP therapy service agreement. I'll second.
All right, Brian?
Yeah, so we had our speech language pathologist, one of them resigned right before the school year. And, we subsequently posted for that position. And kind of came up with a tentative plan to start the school year. And, we just unfortunately didn't get any applicants for the position, and we tried really hard. We made phone calls, we contacted people, they contacted people, and we just couldn't get anybody to come in physically to apply. So, I directed, Julie to, Peterson to go ahead and, look for some online services that were available, and she gathered, 3 vendors, and we got quotes and listened to their presentations, and ultimately we, chose this vendor as our, service provider. And so, we're looking at, an investment for the remainder of the school year, but it's something that we have to do to be compliant with special ed. And so, this will affect about 20 students in our district, and it's certainly a better plan than what we had to start the school year. So I would recommend that we approve the contract today.
Any other questions?
I have a question. How many students do like individual SLPs work with? Is it about an average of 20 as well?
I would say 20 is a good number.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so I asked this earlier, but just to reconfirm. So when the kids, it's gonna be for older kids. And when they're in there, are they gonna have one person per child while they work online? Or how is that gonna work? Like, are we essentially gonna be paying 2 people to do one job? Is what I guess I'm trying to say. So like if they're doing it online and we're paying for that, but then we're also paying for someone to sit there with them. Is that how it's gonna work?
Well, for the speech language pathologist piece, for those service minutes, that person would be working with them online.
Online, but so they
Correct.
wouldn't have anyone necessarily like with them or be like a class?
I don't believe that would be the case. No, they'd be working one-on-one with this person.
So it's like during COVID, when we did speech and stuff online, and just you sit in front of the computer, you do your speech with your person, and then you go back to whatever you're doing.
That would be my understanding. It's 30 minutes once a week.
Okay.
These are all high school kids.
So they're more than likely able to sit on the computer without a ton of supervision.
I would think so. High school, yep.
Other questions or discussion? All right, so just make,
I would say our elementary SLPs are a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Or like 50.
For like 260.
Okay.
Their caseload is about 50 or 60.
50 or 60?
Yeah.
Do we have a speech language pathologist in the high school currently or no? Or is it being?
We don't have one for the high school,
No,
no.
so we don't have one for the high school.
Be there, but
Oh, okay. Is,
So yeah, you were asking about where my kids might go. We have a separate room in our ISU that has the supply room for them to go sit and do their teletherapy.
yeah, okay, so then to piggyback off of that then. Do we have more than 20 children in the high school that need speech help?
We're getting the service to provide those 20 kids.
Okay, so we're gonna adequately supply what we need to supply. Okay,
You have to.
just making sure. Okay.
Yeah.
guess I'm gonna vote to approve this. I don't like a contract that caps us out at hours.
Yeah,
It really bothers me. So you can't, you say, okay, we have 525 therapy hours.
Yep.
And $95. So what happens if we get capped out on that? Then it's gonna come back to the board and say, hey, we need some more hours.
I don't think it's gonna cap out. I think I read in here that it was up to 50 students total.
Okay.
Right now, we.
I just want to I want to make sure that we're not being conservative. This is
Yep.
service that we need, and let's not be capping it at something to where somebody's gonna sit in an office and say, we don't have any more hours, so sorry, type thing. We know we need it, and let's make sure that the contract's written accordingly. And if that's the case here, then I'm all for it, but.
50, wow.
Appears that the individual that Julie's not here.
no, and I read this all day, but I can't figure out words.
All right. Board members, any other questions?
Are we gonna keep the posting? For
Position?
the position?
I don't think we would in this situation because we contracted out for the rest of the school year. So I think we already took down. correct?
But we would
Need
anticipate
it next year.
Needing it
we
next
didn't
year.
Needing it
for next year.
Yes, and in January or whatever, we would open up
Yeah.
everything again,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, for all of our positions that we need to refill, yeah. That's a good question.
Any other questions, board members? All those in favor of approving, signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.2 is to approve the 2023 through 25 bus driver work agreement. I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Questions or discussion? It was a long process. We were finally able to nail things down. I think we have one item on there that we're still kind of MOU in type thing, and that's for help me out with the words.
Safe and sick time?
Sick and safe time,
Sick and safe.
which we have to have for all bargaining units or all employees by January 1st, but we just want to be consistent across the board. So they've agreed to get this thing signed, and then what language we come up to, we'll share with them, but we're pretty close on the other side of things. Any questions on the bus driver agreement that Lynn, Eric, myself, or Brian can answer?
So it's pretty much set to go except for the sick and save stuff and okay,
Yeah, it'll be signed tonight, and that, I mean, it's closed except for seconds.
okay. When that reopens, is it gonna change the master agreement?
Do an MOU.
No, it'll just be an MOU that gets slid into it, so then
Okay,
next time they negotiate it, it'll
okay.
just be in there, so. All in favor, signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.3 is to approve the FY 23 school district audit report.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Questions or discussion? I think we gotta be cognizant. We can see how we're trending. We're trending downward with our reserves, and it's clear in the treasurer's report that you can see the pattern there, that it's federal funds that were given to us, and now we have to figure out
Yeah.
how we're gonna continue that. So we're gonna have some tough decisions to make as a board in the next couple of months, but just be thinking about that, so. We're losing money in areas we have to.
It's
look at
roughly, if we
those-
keep
those
spending the
things.
way it is, it's roughly 5 years. It'd be
Yeah.
No money.
So. Well, I mean, we'll continue to be, we're at the minimum, I mean, we're past the minimum of
Yeah.
what we require, our 8%, but we want to make sure that we have a good fund in there for a rainy day if we do get it. And I guess as long as I'm on the board, I'm just speaking for myself, a rainy day is not going to be, to cover things that we got free money from the feds or the state from. So
Mm-mm.
that's going to be my platform. I mean, we can sit up here and argue about it, but we're gonna have to talk about something.
No one wants to argue.
All right, all those in, let's see, all those in favor of approving the, FY 23 school district audit, signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.4 is to approve the American Indian Education Aid budget. So is Erica here to chat? Anybody? Shreya, anyone chatting with us? I will just make a motion to approve it then. And then we'll get a motion in a second, and Brian, you can update us.
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Brian, got anything on it?
Yeah, so Eric was unable to attend, but, her and I did work together on this. We also involved Carla, as well. Administration has, been consulted. One of the things that I want the board to be aware of is that legislatively, we have this obligation to unpack and embed, American Indian standards into our curricula. And so we have that K through 12. And so I know our administrations are working on that, trying to, devise pilot programs, at each one of their schools. They've started those meetings here in the last couple of weeks. I know Erica is there to provide mentoring and guidance to those folks. I would say it's in the works, but we intend to get that going and fulfill our obligation. This budget will support that. One of the differences in this application for next year as opposed to previous years is that we would look at taking some of the budget and allocating that towards a cultural teacher position. Now, we don't have the means to be able to hire a coordinator and a teacher, because we need to have a coordinator, because we have over 100 Native American students in our school district, so we're required to do that. But I think that what we can do is have somebody in place that would do a split duty. Instead of being that mentor person for the district, I think that would be more of a hands-on teaching position and some more work in the classrooms. And so I've consulted with Erica on that. We've talked with administration about that. She's worked with her, the APAC, with the American Indian Advisory Parent Committee. And everybody seems to be on board that that cultural teaching position will be imperative moving forward to make sure that that person's available. So I've talked to Erica about that in length. And so we've devised this budget to reflect the needs for next year.
Questions on the budget?
I just had one
Yep, go ahead,
question. I
Amanda.
can't find it. It was on here. It was the application for the budget. It's not on the board book anymore. But so we have to have, American Indian culture teaching. When is that? I know we checked no on the application. When do we have to by law start incorporating that?
This year.
This year?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, actually, the good news is that East Grand Forks is that we've been working on this. We've been working on this for a couple years now. The training has been provided, and so we should be in a advantageous position to come in and work with teachers and get some of these standards embedded and some of these lessons written and executed in the classroom.
Who comes in and does that? Does that Erica who does that or?
Erica's working with administration at each building, and then there's a pilot group at each building that she'll be working with. And again, some of the buildings are more ahead than some of the others, but the goal is to get all 4 buildings going here very soon.
So ideally next year we could check yes.
I'm hopeful, yeah, but I think it's gonna be more than a 1-year deal. I think that's something we gotta continue to work on.
All right, all those in favor of approving the American Indian Education Aid Budget, signify by stating aye.
I,
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 9.0 is payment of claims and taxes.
Is there a typo on page 1? It says 357,503, but then the rest of the report points to 387,503. 87, okay. And I would move to approve checks 125,803 through 125,889, an amount of $387,503.20.
Second.
Questions or discussion on those updated in the board book? All those in favor of payment of claims and accounts, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, directly, let's go to 10.0 board member comments. Eric,
Nothing additional tonight.
Josh?
Yeah, I was able to attend the Mean Girls play. I think that those kids did a fantastic job over, a couple weeks ago. And after I heard that half the kids were sick and they just gutted it out, I thought that was even better. So
Lindsay?
Nothing. Night.
Amanda?
yeah, so I have one thing. So back in January, when I joined the Health and Safety Committee, I thought it was totally not what I have experienced, which is fine, neither here nor there, my first year. I do know that there has been a district safety committee that I think that the board needs to think about adopting as one of the committees that the board has, so that board members can be on there so that we can hear and help change things.
So for the rest of the board members, Amanda and I had a little discussion on this, and it's not something that we'll do right now, where this was part of negotiations and putting together a group with the administrative side, with the request from that negotiate or that bargaining unit. But I think in January at the organizational meeting, we can maybe talk about that. We've heard the superintendent talk about some safety things that have come up. We know that we're looking at every single building. And I would agree with Amanda, that is not what comes to the safety and health. So I think we just need to balance it. We could talk about it in January, but at least think about
Yeah,
that.
keep it on your minds.
And maybe it's the committee that we've created out of the negotiations, or maybe it's something separate, but just something to think about. Lynn, you got anything?
No, not tonight. Thank you.
Let's see, what do I have? We're gonna have finance. We keep talking about finance. It may be at the next meeting is gonna be busy because 6 o'clock is truth and taxation. And then I'm trying to get MSBA to come here and kind of bring us back all up to speed before the new year on what we're gonna what our next steps are in the process with interim superintendent, et cetera. So I'm shooting for that at the December 11th meeting. Not necessarily sure if we'll get there or not. And then there's a potential that we'll end up having a special meeting on top of that for some other things that have been going on in the district. So just watch your phones, watch your email. I may call a special meeting prior to December 11th. But 11.0 is next Board of Education meeting scheduled for December 11th at 5:30 p.m. We'll start at 5:30. We'll recess at 6 o'clock. We'll do our truth and taxation, and then go back to the regular. Or we'll be done with the regular board meeting before the truth and taxation, but I'm guessing not, so. Otherwise, 12.0, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Anybody want to talk about it? All right, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting, signify by stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for coming, everybody. Meeting's adjourned. That's my favorite part of the